Sketch made this.
I say don't go any further into this room, but if you're looking for another guard to shoot, and maybe take some of your stress with the game out on him, keep your gun drawn and walk forward after killing the guard here, turn left instead of right, step forward out of the room, turn left, make your way down the hallway, and prepare to shoot the guard at the end. This guy is a little slower at drawing his weapon and seems to be easier to hit. But if you don't want to take that risk or just don't fancy shooting anybody else just yet, feel free to take the door out of the storage room to your right back into the room that Mulder has now vacated. Exit here and you can either turn right down the hallway to head to the next objective, or you can turn left, head through the last door on the left, make your way down this hallway, enter the room on the right at the end that's filled with flight cases and looks like this is where the film crew stored their gear, and turn right twice to trigger an encounter with Scully that's easily missable and even the strategy guide only makes a tiny reference to. Which is unfortunate for anybody who's never seen it, because it's easily one of the most in-character things in this whole game. And Scully laughing when Wilmore suggests aliens is an absolute joy to behold.
Wilmore, any sign of Mulder?
No.
I haven't seen him either. What was he talking about? Why is he looking for a key? And what kind of key? He said something about a storage chamber. Now I have to figure out why he's behaving this way and somehow get him out of here.
I know what's wrong with him.
What?
He's host to some kind of alien life form that controls him.
Yeah, right. Did he tell you to say that? It's very funny. Look, quit screwing around and tell me what the hell Mulder's up to.
My personal favourite response being...
I think he's looking for what's being stored in this facility.
Oh, really? Uh-huh. And what would that be?
An alien craft that landed in the waters of the Pacific.
Uh-huh. Somehow I knew that was coming. Look, you don't know very much about Agent Mulder, so let me explain a few things to you. He can sometimes indulge in...
I'd just love to know where Scully was going with that description of Mulder. She's always very good at apologising for him and explaining away his unorthodox methods of investigating to everybody. But here she looks like she believes she's being messed with, possibly at her partner's urging, and is set to share the opinion she only ever shares with Mulder. That she thinks he's f***ing batcrap crazy. Well, at least she would have, had it not been for that pesky soldier. After you've picked a response to Scully's question, be sure to get your gun ready again and shoot him down when the time comes. He deserves it, for interrupting one of those rare moments that makes this game shine. Anyway, head back out into the main hallway and make your way round it, keeping the control room on your left until you reach the door at the end. Save now! That's not even a suggestion, that's an order! Because it's easy to f*** up your entire game so that you never get the end sequence here. And even though I'm going to walk you through what to do and will show what happens if you don't, it's better to be safe than sorry, as you now have two options ahead of you. One of which a strategy guide suggests you'd be better off skipping altogether. But of course, I'm immediately going to take you to. Take door number 2 to your right and enter the medical exam lab, because, you know, those cold metallic tables look so inviting. For a military base that's clearly doing experimentation of some sort and deals with other top secret materials though, I am surprised at how open this place is and how close to the entrance the lab is, like it's just your run-of-the-mill office space. Also, the lack of bodies here is ridiculous, but anyway, move forward, turn right and pick up the cattle prod to learn...
That explains the cattle mutilation.
Agent Wilmore, fancy meeting you here.
So it's you?
Yes, it's me. I guess you're curious about what the hell's going on here.
Well, yeah, the thought had crossed my mind.
Oh? It was my job to divert attention away from the actual events. Plutonium smuggling, Russians, Wong, all made up. Actually, I made everything up.
Why?
Why? Money. Lots of it. It had nothing to do with any deeply held beliefs. It feels so good talking to you, but unfortunately, now I have to kill you.
Really, Craig? You're really surprised? You're actually denser than I took you for! But, you know, I'm so glad Cook's motivations didn't go any deeper than money. You know, wouldn't want to get too immersive in any kind of interesting character backstory at this point. It's not as if he could have turned out to be the son of one of the syndicate members looking to please Daddy, because Jeffrey Spender would tell you how badly that works out. And he couldn't have been some up-and-coming douchebag looking to join the conspiracy, because that character already exists in the form of lovable rogue rat boy Alex Krycek, who I assume is still trapped in that silo from the end of Apocrypha, seeing as they couldn't be asked to get him in this. It's not as if there could have been any other kind of motivation for his actions this whole time, so why would I ever want to regard this as problem number 15? You know what? I can't even be bothered using sarcasm to come up with ideas way better than this anymore. What? Did CSM put an ad in the local newspaper asking for a shifty-looking guy to dick with the FBI while the syndicate tried to negotiate with the Oilian? Must be willing to screw over partner for a nice bundle of cash? This is the most explanation we ever get for everything Wilmore has encountered in this game, and yet there are still so many holes in the plot. What was with the wooden crates at the warehouse that never had anything in but that lead? What was the actual deal with Wong? Yeah, he was smuggling on the Terracan, but why was he at that dock with all those jerry cans in his hold?
All made up.
All made up? As a fan of the series, I'm used to the conspiracy using smoke and mirrors to mislead our heroes from the actual truth. But there's an awful lot of factors going on that you want me to just completely dismiss. A lot of people involved that I can't even begin to fathom as just putting on a show. Why were Mulder and Scully even at that warehouse at the beginning? I could go on and on. I have gone on and on as we progressed through this. And if it had been revealed here that everything had been one big red herring put together by somebody who actually had an investment in the work of the syndicate, I probably wouldn't have minded. But instead we get the shallow and cliched, it was just for money excuse, and I feel my heart sink even further as I realise that everything I had to point out that contributed absolutely nothing to the plot was probably there on purpose. That's just unacceptable. What's not unacceptable is the sight of Craig getting the crap kicked out of him, or even being shot in the face by the person he should have suspected from the beginning. But of course, we're not supposed to die yet, so before Mark can blessedly put an end to this, click on the cattle prod to take him down. Do not shoot him, no matter how tempting that is. I'll show what happens soon enough, but let's just say it doesn't give the happily ever after ending you were probably hoping for. In fact, it technically doesn't give you an ending at all, but we'll get to that when the time comes, as for now we need to get out of this room and take the other door we ignored on our way in here. Head to the far end of the poorly lit isolation chamber room to find Scully, who's clearly finally learnt something from her previous few encounters and pulls her gun on you.
Oh, it's you. I don't know what's wrong with Mulder. I think he's in some kind of a narco-somnambulistic state. Maybe if we can lure him into the isolation chamber, I can contain him until I can figure out how to treat him.
This sounds way kinkier than I think she means it to. Either that, or she's finally admitting it's time to lock Mulder's crazy ass away.
Okay, how are we gonna do that?
Well, first of all, we need to locate the other key that Mulder was looking for. Now, whatever is in that room is protected by some kind of a blast door. It looks to me like the door is operated by 2 key panels. Both keys need to be turned simultaneously, like launching a nuclear missile. Now there's a key guard in the corner of the room. Maybe if I distract him, you can come up behind him and knock him out. Then we can use the key to get Mulder into that chamber.
The door to the room next to this one is locked, so how Scully knows all this about how the key system looks or is operated is beyond me. I do love how Gillian Anderson seems to be struggling with the stupidity of the script, though.
First, we have to get the isolation chamber powered up. Now, the door to the security area locked itself behind me, so we have to get that opened up first.
Okay, so I take back what I said about her knowing the key system. But still, the guard didn't spot her snooping around? What, has she turned into Sam Fisher or Solid Snake? How does she know the guard even has the card on him? Does he have a special neon sign or indicator above his head declaring, "Get your key cards here"? And you're telling me that by the book, Special Agent Dana Scully of the Federal Bureau of Investigation's grand plan is to distract and knock out military personnel? Is she still high on pain meds? To complete the first part of her 2-part plan to capture Mulder, look at the control panel to the left of her and pull the green button to power up the isolation chamber. Because she was too short to do it herself? Leave the room, head over to the nearest exit of the lit chamber and press the button on the control panel to open the door. Then make your way around the outside of the chamber to do the same to open the door directly opposite the last one. After that's prepped and ready, head all the way back to the central control room, the entrance of which is at the far end of the main hallway. Once inside, walk forward and then look left to see the control button for the blast door that's conspicuously labelled as Life Support System Entry. For some reason. Press it and then backtrack again to the isolation chamber room. And no! It hasn't escaped my attention that this is easily the most backtracking filled section of the whole game. It's as if the developers are trying to drag out the end for as long as possible, while I desperately work to be done with it as quickly as I can. Make your way to the door in the far left corner that was locked last time we were here to find Scully, again, waiting for us to do all the work for her.
Well, let's hope this works. Any particular direction you'd like to claim?
Save now! Don't say you weren't warned otherwise. There are 2 different available paths from here. For some reason, the strategy guide insists that you take the right one and, bizarrely, doesn't even talk about what happens if you go left. To be contradictory, I'm going to show both paths because I think they're both worth talking about. But whatever you choose yourself in the end, don't change your mind after picking away and then attempt going back, because apparently Scully really doesn't want you not doing all the work. Is it wrong that when her hair flicks round, I just want to add the "because I'm worth it" sound file? Anyway, if you go left and make your way around this caged area that I absolutely don't get the point of, you'll find out that Scully has somehow magically teleported ahead of you and is being shouted at by some guard who has clearly never watched the series and learnt that cardinal rule about not messing with her. Maybe he should have accidentally found his way into that storage closet. Anyway, clearly this guy isn't the same as the officers that have been trying to gun us down, because he has the attitude of a teacher's pet who doesn't want to get in trouble. Despite the fact that Scully calmly but authoritatively shows her FBI badge and explains the situation at hand, the discount officer Bar Brady just barks out a 3, 2, 1 countdown that, if you don't intervene, ends with him shooting Scully in the left shoulder. At least she'll now have symmetrical scars. Well, at least she would, if this shot didn't somehow kill her.
Halt!
Sir, I'm Agent Dana Scully with the FBI.
Do not come any further.
This facility has been overrun by terrorists. I need your assistance.
I can't leave my post.
Sir, I am an FBI agent. I am
You
asking
have
for
3
your
seconds
assistance.
before I shoot.
I
One,
need your help, sir.
2,
I need for you to come with
3.
me.
I'm sorry about this. This comes from the very top. There's nothing I can do about it.
The f***? First of all, that bullet is barely in her shoulder and definitely not near any vital organs. There is no way that thing's killing her, and certainly not as instantly as this would have us believe. Secondly, I'll buy the idea that maybe this guy saw his comrades irradiated and is acting erratically as a result. But what did he expect Scully to do? She didn't advance any closer, she didn't draw a weapon, she was clear and concise. He couldn't put her under military arrest or something for being on the base? Even if she had had purity swimming through her system, shooting her wouldn't have done anything anyway, so the joke was always going to be on him. And thirdly, I'm sorry Shanks, but it wasn't my fault she got shot. She shouldn't have teleported ahead of me. Maybe suspend Wilmore for failing to act quick enough, but I get the impression he's been fired outright, which seems extreme for the circumstances. And the fact that the order comes from the top is even more ludicrous considering how little the FBI gave a shit about the X-Files agents. This whole scene is so stupid and a little camped up. Just take a moment to laugh your arse off at the shocked expression on Scully's face as she lies there. No wonder the strategy guide wants to forget this exists. Which is even more ironic considering this was always the direction I picked when I first played the game. Taking the right option isn't much better than this, but I feel like the writers put themselves in a position where they offered two possible paths and then couldn't think what to do. The only way to stop Scully from dying is to shoot the guard first, from behind, without any warning. Again, this poor innocent guy who's possibly witnessed his friends being mass murdered in the blink of an eye hasn't a chance. Wilmore could have easily wrestled him to the ground, or Acme style knocked him out like Scully told us to, or at the least called out a reaffirmation of what she was saying, instead of running in with guns blazing. But I guess that would just be too logical, and why the hell should they start applying that this late in the game? Anyway, once you've grabbed the keycard from the guard's body, possessed Mulder will appear, intent on getting it out of your grubby mitts. Turn right, head forward into the caged area, turn left and out through the door ahead of you, then turn right and quickly make your way out to the isolation chamber room. Lure Mulder through the middle of the chamber, and when you get out the other side, spin around 180 degrees and press the button to trap him inside. If at any point during this whole chase you hesitate or forgot to open both chamber doors, you will be instantly irradiated, so make sure you've brushed up on getting your cursor quickly and efficiently across the screen before taking this on. If you encountered Cook and killed him, this is where your ending gets messy.
Problem number 16!
There's actually another pressing problem here that I've been putting off since the plan was first brought into the story, but I'm waiting for the right time to explode about that. Let's first address the fact that the black hole does not magically appear in people. Fine, the special effects of the alien taking over somebody's body by first crawling under their skin wasn't perfected until season 4, and this game's budget was probably blown on either the 50 words Duchovny and Anderson utter or the Gordon's hauling explosion. But just, that's not even a thing that makes sense. I mean, I know the oil can penetrate hazmat suits with ease, but are we supposed to believe that it escaped this isolation chamber milliseconds after leaving Mulder? And what's with the bell tolling? How did Scully run around so fast? And where did she get the stiletto from? I thought we were still holding on to it. As bad endings go, I get this was the only logical way to go, and that if you're not a fan of the show, you'd have no reason to question how this happened. But I just hate that I feel the slithering, sinister nature of the oil has had to be downgraded due to budget constraints. I do love, though, how the game waits until now to finally reveal what's inscribed on Wilmore's headstone. For something to live, something must be sacrificed. Yes, for the awesome Mulder and Scully to continue on their quest, douchebags must fall by the wayside. Sorry, that sounded nowhere near as sarcastic as I meant it to. It used to bug me that the epitaph was blurred in the other death scenes from the base, but in further retrospect, this is the perfect time to make the reveal, and there is a real poignancy here as a result. Sure, I'm left feeling again like more effort was put into the ending that's not supposed to happen, rather than on the main plot, but I don't know, there's just something about it that works. That, and I don't want people thinking I do nothing but complain about this game. Of course, there is the correct ending if you either didn't encounter Cook or electrocuted him with the cattle prod. But I'm going to wait to show you that, because first we need to see what would have happened if you'd gone right instead.
And the key.
So, when Mulder is bossing the guard around, he's all, "Yes, sir." But when Scully does it, he just shoots her? Dude, you have it completely the wrong way round. Also, sexist much? There are two options here. One good, one definitely not so good. Of course, there's also the option to do nothing, but that ending's a little underwhelming. So, what happened to Mulder? Why didn't the alien just leave him to get back in its ship? Things would be much better if the entity was just allowed to go, so why isn't this the good ending? But no. Instead, we have to shoot the moronic guard from behind without any warning again. Is possessed Mulder deaf or something? Why the f*** doesn't he react when you do that? Then grab the key from the lock, turn left, leave the room and take the route through the isolation chamber I showed you earlier. Here's where I get to cockblock you again from the proper ending though, because, as I mentioned, there are two things you can do here. The not so good selection, instead of shooting the guard, would be to pull the stiletto from your inventory and click it on Mulder. And prepare to cry. Bravo, Hyperbole Studios, and I mean that in all sincerity, if not just because it's given me good footage to use in several X-Files music videos. Scully's death was stupid and improbable, but because she's here for Mulder's death and there's that instant emotion tied to it, the scene is grounded and finally makes me feel connected to the seriousness of what's going on. Yes, it's marred by the big problem that I'm struggling to hold off from sharing for another few minutes, and David Duchovny is clearly blinking, but as I mentioned a long way back, this is the key element that has been painfully missing for a majority of the game. Proper character development and involvement. The guiding force of the TV series was always Mulder and Scully's partnership. They were the nucleus that everything else orbited around. As show creator Chris Carter has said on numerous occasions, even though he probably hates being quoted on it, it all boils down to Mulder loves Scully and Scully loves Mulder. And no, I'm actually not talking about any kind of romantic connotation. For a change, I'm talking about the friendship, the working relationship as they took on monsters and conspirators and psychopaths side by side, watching each other's backs. How absolutely devastated, desperate and lost they would be when one was either hurt or missing.
This is not happening!
We felt their pain because it was portrayed so well, even in the first episode when they first meet each other. Even their relationships with Skinner, with the gunman and other supporting roles made us give a shit because of the depth of the characterizations. This game has tried with some forced character development that I've just ended up making fun of, and there are genuinely some flickers of what I'm talking about between Wilmore and Astrodorian. Hell, even the voicemails from Craig's ex gave us a depth to his character that looking at sentimental photos and drawings by his daughter didn't. But it all lacks the gravitas that the excellent writing on the series had. Sure, we've seen concern from show regulars for our missing agents, but it always felt a little throwaway. Look at this scene. Scully stroking Mulder's hair, the tender gazing. This loss is a big frickin' deal, and the sunflower seeds being sprinkled on the coffin almost kills me. In the Wilmore death scene I wasn't able to trigger, despite playing through 3 times with different choices made, we get to see Astrodorian being told by Truitt that the remains found belong to Craig. And she does look upset, but at the same time it's a guarded emotion and there's no follow-up. And that's why this scene easily stands out above all else. Which is really sad, considering the shooting script was apparently over 750 pages long, yet couldn't give us more of these kind of moments between the new characters we were being forced to invest ourselves in. Anyway, I guess I've been putting this off long enough, which is kind of ironic considering how eager I am to be done with this. Here's the true ending after you trap Mulder if you didn't encounter or shoot Cook.
Turn the key. Turn the key.
First of all, much like the question earlier when Wilmore got infected, how did Cook become host of the Black Oil? Is there more of it hanging out at this base, or did the stuff in Mulder magically jump to him instead? Also, I love that whereas possessed Mulder irradiated you if you thwarted his plans, possessed Cook just flat out shoots you. In issue 14 of the season 10 comics, the entity possessing Mulder claims that the host desperately tries to fight against what is controlling his body and senses. Somehow, I can just imagine Cook having no issue with doing this whatsoever. He's probably even enjoying it. I wonder if it would have ended differently if we hadn't given him our other assignments or gotten him to put out the APB at the beginning. Maybe Wilmore should have given him a hug more often. If there's one thing this series has taught us, it's that it's totally okay and normal to regularly hug or touch your completely platonic co-worker. Anyway, what you're supposed to do here is pull the plam out of your inventory and click it on Scully. How this teleports it into her possession, I don't know, but seeing as that's pretty much my reaction to every question in this game, and considering this is the action you make, I'm beyond the point of caring. I would joke that it's nice to see that Scully, somebody who takes every opportunity she gets to remind us that she's a medical doctor, still has no clue where the base of the skull is, except...
Number 17!
This is not how you deal with the fucking black oil! Yeah, it's a good way to kill an asshole who's threatening to shoot you, but there's nothing to stop the oil jumping to the next living body. The stiletto was always a very specific tool to kill clones, hybrids, and alien bounty hunters. And while purity is their life source, the primordial version of the virus that was left on the planet and deposited in rocks is a completely different entity, and cannot just be thwarted by taking down the human host. In fact, the only time the oil was shown in the series actually being killed was in the Season 8 episode Vienna, when it was discovered that some undilated gene pools could make some cultures naturally immune to the virus. Obviously the mythology regarding the aliens is long and complex, and my brain crammed full with 22 years of fandom could be making me forget or incorrectly interpret something. But this is an issue that's been tearing me up inside since X first gave Wilmot a plan, because this was never an established method on the show. This is something that's been devised and only used in the 2 video games. Although Resist or Serve's version of irradiation showed people shooting unidirectional light beams out of their chests instead of the classic isolation blast effect. So I'm not exactly in any rush to take anything in that game as a correct representation of stuff from the show. I get it, the black oil is scary, and the thought of it controlling our favourite agents is f***ing terrifying, and gamers need a satisfying end boss battle to deal with that threat. The stiletto is the only logical tool to use as a result, but that's why I've had an issue with this story introducing the black oil in the first place. It's written itself into a corner where it needs this final showdown because that's what the structure of a game calls for. Story setup, journey, epic good versus evil finale. Here's the thing though, this deals with elements that don't and can't be just stopped in the grand scheme of a long running series, and that's what 1013 Productions consider this story to be. Part of the bigger canon, because they even did the unheard of thing by assigning the game an official episode production number, 3X99. The ending that would have made more sense here would have been to let the oiling leave the host, a la Krychek and Apocrypha, and get back in its ship. I hate seeing the facts that I love being twisted into a contrived tool of convenience.
Agent Wilmore, I know you're upset by what's transpired, but we're all affected when one of our own goes bad.
I never saw it coming.
Except when you kind of did. Granted, the boring reveal of him being in it for only money was surprising, but I'm pretty sure you had an inkling right around the fingerprints incident.
Mark was my friend.
I should have been more attentive, perhaps, but none of us are at fault.
Except Agent Cook himself.
Hello. Come in, please.
I just wanted to say goodbye. I spoke to Detective Astrodorian. Apparently they searched Cook's apartment and found my laptop, fortunately.
Okay, no, seriously, what the f*** is on that thing that's so important besides Scully's browsing history? Are there any notes about this case that might give us some better backstory to this whole thing?
But it seems as though Cook staged the break-in here in order to make it look as if he'd been attacked.
Well, it seems that Agents Mulder and Scully have been talking to Assistant Director Skinner.
Yes, apparently your work has received quite a bit of attention at the Bureau. You have quite a fan in Assistant Director Skinner.
Yes, because you found his wayward children. He'd be absolutely lost if he didn't have them keeping him busy all day and night, or bringing him Alex Krycheks to beat up.
Although I must admit some of what I've heard sounds a bit fantastic, to put it mildly.
Oh, yes, sir. I agree.
I'd have to plead the fifth on that. Anyway, I've got a plane to catch, but Agent Mulder wanted me to tell you that his foot has woken up.
That's a relief.
Anyway, I wanted to say thank you.
I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
You're looking a little ragged around the edges. Why don't you go home and get some sleep? I'll see you here tomorrow, first thing in the morning. And oh, I expect your report on this matter to show up when you do.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Detective Astadorian also mentioned she had some paperwork for you to sign. She said she'd drop it by your place, although I told her she could send it here. She seemed adamant about handing it off to you directly.
Yes, sir.
Agent Wilmore.
I guess I know what you want. Hold on a second, I'll go get it.
I think not. You'd better keep it. You're gonna need it again. Soon.
And that's it! We've finally reached the end! And can we take a moment to acknowledge how good this final scene is? It's well acted by everyone. I love the callback to Mulder's sleeping leg, it's so in character. And the potential innuendo in the idea of Astadorian being eager to go direct to Craig with paperwork. Although, the fact that this scene doesn't change and she still wants to go over to his place if he's been a dick to her all game is a little, well, weird, and maybe more insight into her personality than I want to know. I love the open-endedness and X's reappearance to add that ominous touch, despite the fact that considering so many people have fought and died to possess the weapon over the years, there's no way anybody would leave the stiletto in the hands of a clueless noob like Craig Wilmore. It's just a good, fun ending. I'm sad and baffled as to why Mulder couldn't have been there with Scully to say goodbye, but kudos to Gillian Anderson for being entertaining enough with her dozen or so lines of dialogue to make the absence feel more natural. Special credit for the shy awkwardness when Shanks says about the bizarre, inexplicable parts of the story. And at the end of the day, it does all sound bizarre, because no matter how much is left unanswered, which to be fair is classic X-Files, or how many problems I have with the rest of the game, or how much more they probably could have actually done with this ending, it genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, is as perfect an end as I think we could have got. Which pretty much sums up the overarching polarisation I experienced while playing the game. Leading us to final thoughts! The key thing to take into consideration when watching this series of rants is that I was 17 or 18 and the series was at its utmost peak when I first played this game, and so much hype was built up for it. We were promised a ridiculous amount of things to make us feel 100% like we were in an episode of the show. Now, I actually have no gripe with the game needing to use an unknown agent to carry its story. Especially as an adult, I can now fully respect and appreciate how busy Duchovny and Anderson were, thus cutting back on their availability for this. But what scarred me back then and continues to piss me off to this day is that everything, the publicity, the game's packaging, the strategy guide, all very predominantly feature the faces of Mulder and Scully. In fact, you'd be hard pressed to find an image of any of the game's main cast anywhere. The summary on the packaging even says that you assist Mulder and Scully with their investigation, which I guess if you think about it hard enough, you technically do. But that's definitely not why Wilmore gets involved in the first place, and it's all very misleading. I mean, my god, even the installation screen on the PC version features only images of the TV cast and then has a sound file of Scully going on about her investigations with Mulder and how she has to approach things with an open mind, even though her theories and final report will always insist science!
I can only continue my work with Agent Mulder by keeping an open mind, believing that science and reason will ultimately reveal the truth.
I get it. The stars and the names are what sell merchandise. But I felt so lied to, and that's something that has just marred my attitude toward the game since. No matter how much I've tried to move on, or from that apparent betrayal, or how much the show always told us to trust no one. Aside from that, what are my general thoughts on the game? This may surprise you, even if you've only seen one part of this review series, but I actually have a reserved fondness for this game. And before anybody rushes to say something in the comments, I am not retracting anything I've said in these videos or over the past 16 years, and I will never refer to it as anything more than competent or playable. But it tries, and what it does get right is legitimately a joy to behold. It attempts to capture so many of the elements that made the show a success, and while it undoubtedly fails for the most part, there are still fragments here and there that give it a distinctly nostalgic feel. Multiple endings and butterfly effect style choices and consequences are standard in gaming today, and the X-Files game was certainly not the first to use the mechanic. But back then, the ability to change how people responded to you, or how your character saw the world around him, just based on small choices you made in full motion video as opposed to computer graphics, was fascinating. Even the little touches like the different suicide notes you can get when you shoot Wilmore are fun to uncover and add a little more depth to him. It was always going to be Doom though. It was released at a time when FMV games were dying out in popularity. Game files were being stored on much smaller and better forms of software. And the biggest problem? It should never, ever have been ported to the PlayStation 1. Nothing about it works in this format, and I really regret my first encounter with the game not being on the PC. I know hardcore PC gamers are going to roll their eyes and well, duh, at this, but the game looks and runs so much better on that platform, and is probably much closer to how it was envisioned originally than the monstrosity that turned up on consoles. And no, I'm not talking about the glitched icons on the footage I recorded. I played the game on the PS1 originally and remember the icons being fine. But for some reason, neither the PlayStation 2 or 3, which I copied this from, are completely backwards compatible with the game, and seem to struggle reading the coding. I purchased a further 2 copies to check that it wasn't just my old scratched copy causing the problems, but neither worked. I'm talking about things like how the title menu alone is much more entertaining, or how much better laid out the computer system is. Finally, there's a reason to find that password pinned up in Wilmore's office. The better mechanics don't cover up or make up for the awful hole-ridden story, but the experience is a lot more bearable and engrossing thanks to them. Bringing me to the ultimate question. Should you play this game? Judging from the comments that people have been sharing during this series, the answer should be a resounding yes. I'm really glad that there are people out there that enjoyed playing this or have fond memories of it, but there are lots of flaws here that will annoy and bog you down, no matter what your main reason for picking this up in the first place is. Unless you're completely able to turn off your brain and boil all the problems down to, 90s. If you're a gamer who's never seen the show but want to get into it, I can't say in all truthfulness that this would be the best thing to help you do that. Yeah, there are factors from the show here, but you'd probably be better off playing the PS2 game Resist or Serve. It's set later in the series, but you get a better feel for the characters and the mythology than you do here, if you can get past the bad voice acting and ludicrous story. If you're a point-and-click adventurer, then yes, this is probably worth adding to your collection, especially compared to some other titles from the same period. And if you're a hardcore fan of the series, looking to further your enjoyment of the show, yes, it doesn't bring anything new to the table, and you'd be much better off watching the mythology episodes that this draws a lot from, but I think it's an interesting study of what could have happened if it had continued as its own spin-off series with different agents. We live in a time now when pretty much all crime dramas have partner shows set in different cities, occasionally doing crossovers with the original series they spun off from. I'm not saying it would have been all that enthralling with these particular characters, but it's a fascinating concept. At the very least, it's a shame these characters were never introduced into the show, even in a small cameo role. When all said and done, it's not the worst game I've ever played. Not even the most disappointed officially licensed product I've ever owned. It's just very hit and miss. And if you must play it, definitely track down a copy of the PC version. And I think that's pretty much everything I can think to say about the game. Oh, come on. You know I had to get that in one last time. This has been an insane, rocky 6-year journey and endeavour making this rant. Through lost files, deleted YouTube accounts, health problems, etc, etc. But you know what? It's actually been quite therapeutic and helped me appreciate the game more than I did before. My God, who'd have thought back when I started this that we'd ever get new episodes of the show to look forward to? Or not, depending on your view of Season 10. To those who have watched and commented, thank you so much for all your support. But a special shout out has to go to anyone who has been following this series since the first parts were originally uploaded. Thank you so much for your patience and sticking with it. Now that this is finally out of the way, I can fully focus and get on with my other X-Files related videos, as well as other review projects, which I hope you'll check out in the future. Please like, subscribe, share your thoughts, take care, and remember that the truth is always out there. Bye guys. Thank God I can finally get out of this sodding tea.